let's talk about what we would do. So Lomax, I've got top 5 things I would do if I was, I guess, Chancellor, not necessarily Andy Burnham, but what would you do, Lomax?
What would I do with a blank slate, or what would I mean? That's a very theoretical question, which we can cover. I would, but I think there's another more questions like, what if you were Burnham, and the context of like what the voters.
Yeah, okay. I'll take it in any direction you want to. I mean, either blank slate.
Okay, fine. So with a blank slate, I think you need to move away from risk-free society, as Mads said, which cuts across your Andy Burnham's happy heart in every postcode, right? We just simply can't underwrite everything at the state level. So the state needs to shrink. We also need to maintain fiscal credibility at the same time, right? So we can't necessarily go straight into a, cut all taxes, end up in a kind of potential Liz Truss territory. So there's that trade-off. I would, though, in no particular order, the welfare state needs to be addressed, right? We need to bring the cost down. We need to encourage more investment into technology in our society, particularly in like opening up the ability for pension capital to flow in, to growth capital. We need to make an attractive place for foreign people to invest. So there does need to be a look at things like corporation tax, some tax incentives for people who are actually investing significant capital. Clearly, we need to have a cutting of the red tape, a deregulation drive. I mean, look at this data center build out, right? We're trapped by 2 things. We're trapped by the energy problem. So we need to bring that down. We need to deregulate nuclear, for example, and make it easier and quicker and cheaper to build nuclear plants and to cheapen electricity prices, particularly industrial ones. At the same time, we need to make it easier to build data centers. So that also is a deregulation play. Look at what happened since the Americans came over last year and with Donald Trump, and we had all these big announcements. Basically, all of that's been unwound because everyone found it's too difficult to do that in the UK. The Stargate OpenAI project in the UK got cancelled. So it's a combination of, and the problem is, it's very easy for me to sit here and be like, well, we should run austerity and we should cut welfare, and at the same time we should increase spending in these critical areas. It's very easy to do that theoretically, but if this is a theoretical exercise, so sure, let's go for it.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I think the one thing I would do above all else is to bring back the feeling of being proud to be British, and energetically instilling, I don't know, at schools, through national service, through clubs, through multitude of ways, just feeling a sense of national pride. I think there's an energy piece that we're missing in the UK, where we don't feel together. We don't feel like we need to get up and get out and do and build and be innovative and learn. I'm being a bit unfair here to a degree, but I think I've always felt a sense of a lacking sense.
There's a smidgen of Dan Bowyer's MAGA.
Shall I get a blue hat, or would that be too Tory? I think there's something about feeling spirit, pride.
Dan, I wonder whether that's cart before horse. I think. Okay, so I actually think you can find the sort of roughly 30 billion that you need to balance the current account and the fiscal position. That immediately will start to bring interest rates down. That will stimulate lending. It will stimulate house building. You start to unwind some of the regulatory issues we've created. That will further boost growth. The economy starts to move again. I think that leads to all the things you're talking about. I think we've got plenty to be proud of culturally in the UK. I was proud when you saw kind of England play on Saturday, right? What a great match. What a great run they had at this World Cup.
Yeah, we got to the semis. Yeah, we should be proud of that. I just don't think that was. I don't think we were.
You don't think so?
I don't. I think we are lacking a confidence, an energy, a drive, an ambition. I think we are stuck in a very southeast bubble. I've not for a while now, but I've spent a lot of time in the Midlands, up north, in the northeast especially. And it's just a different country, and it's hard work. It's hard trodden. There's a difficulty that we just don't see down in London and the southeast. And I think I understand why Burnham is now doing the political piece and, not working from London number 10, but working from the northern number 10. But I think if energetically we start from that I'm going to get up and do. I feel confident. I feel positive. I feel energized, and we're going to go. I think that's, to me, that's the starting point.
If you look at it a bit like a startup or any business, you have this like trade-off or two things you need to get right. You need to get the narrative right, and then you need to get the fundamentals right. And by the fundamentals, Mads is totally right. You need the everything really does flow from the growth rate, from the economy, right? So everyone clearly will be feeling great about that. If they're making money, they're feeling richer. If there's a lot of opportunity for them.
But this is my point. However, what starts that?
At the same time, you need narrative, right? Like a startup at pre-seed or seed stage, right? Or
when you don't have the data, you need the narrative, like you say.
We know Starmer failed on narrative, right? And so actually Tony Blair was amazing at narrative, and he wasn't so bad at fundamentals either. Fundamentals, of course, is a little bit out of your hands as a politician, right? Because the UK is so, it's so like, look at, what happened to Gordon Brown, suddenly the GFC happens on your watch. You can argue it's his fault, but also probably the fault of what happened a lot in the US, right? So there is an element on the fundamental side that's a bit out of your control, but the narrative is way more in your control. But I do think Mads is basically right. Like for this all to work, like you need the economy to be, people to be feeling richer, and for people to feel like there's opportunity, right?
Yeah,
but while you don't have that, or in the gap before you start getting it, you need the narrative, which is what we have. You'd
be such a lovely moderator, Lomax. You should come and join our meetings. You'd be such a lovely moderator.
Well, if you think about the narrative, also is like if you've got 7. I was looking at a table of, in the UK, we often laughed at the changes in prime ministers in European countries. Now, the UK's had the probably highest or second highest turnover, apart from Bulgaria or Romania, in the last 10 years. So, that is a lack of narrative. You had Liz Truss going, let's go this way. And then, she did the lettuce thing. And then you have, you know what I mean? Like,
she did the lettuce
there's
thing.
No one's had enough time. And then the one dude who came in with a 320 whatever majority seats he had, Starmer, who had the opportunity to bring in some narrative, failed because he didn't have it.
Yeah, not a strong suit.
He started to put some reasonable fundamentals in place. But the sad thing is now, even like for us in technology and AI, actually in the AI opportunities plan, there's actually some quite good things in there. But now Burnham's probably going to just rip them up or ignore them.
Lots of tears, no riz, as they say. I'm going to quickly run through my 5. So I would rule out a wealth tax day one, declare war on industrial energy costs, fix planning, get reform with teeth, restructure taxes rather than raise them, and force pension capital into UK assets. I would force it personally. What would you do, Mads, or what would you challenge out of what we've spoken about so far?
Yeah, not surprisingly, agree with you on most of these bits. I wouldn't force capital. I think you can't confiscate people's pension savings and tell them what to do. You can put incentives in place. I think that's far more powerful.
Yeah, you've always been big on that. Yeah.
There are massive incentives around pension savings today, right? It's costing us more than £50 billion a year. We're talking about fiscal, gaps. I mean, that is a huge amount of money we're spending.
You nailed it.
Yeah, direct some of that towards what you invest in. Say, okay, great. You want to save in your pension to invest in Max 7 stocks. They're probably going to do fine. They probably don't need a subsidy. Fine. Maybe you get less of a tax incentive there. You're going to invest in UK assets, companies, startups, whatever. Great. You're going to get the full tilt. I think that's pretty simple, and I think that in itself could solve a huge thing. Then there's also the regulatory piece, right? How are pension funds measured? What constitutes a good fiduciary, a good administrator, a good investor in a pension fund? Is it somebody who just minimizes fees and minimizes volatility, or is it somebody who maximizes long-term returns? But clearly, it must be the latter. So there's some of those things that have to change.